Let's imagine there are two people and they're totally in love with each other. You know, they truly adore each other, love each other, and they're both at super high levels of energy. They've taken care of their bodies and their minds. Psychologically, they're staying strong. What kind of relationship are they going to have? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be okay? Is it going to be amazing? Is it going to be magnificent? They're going to have an extraordinary. That's right. We're going to have a wonderful, fantastic, beautiful. Now watch. What if you got the same two people, love each other just as much, but they're no longer at super high energy? Now they've let life kind of wear them down a little bit, and now they're down here and like, okay, good. And now they still love each other, but, you know, they don't quite have that same level of energy. And it's like, you know, they're a little worn down and taking the kids to the soccer practice and, you know, some financial pressure in the business. And, you know, I'm worried about mom. And so as a result, the energy's down here. They love each other just as much, but it's not the same. What if their energy drops even further? And now they're down here and they really got a challenging time. I mean, they're really frustrated. They're tired. They're exhausted. I love you. I love you too. Yeah, that's great. Read between the lines how I feel about that. The truth of the matter is, same couple? Is it the same relationship? Yes or no? What we need to realize is energy is everything. If you have the right energy, you can get yourself to follow through. So how many of you have days, though, where you woke up in the morning and thought to yourself, your mind says, let's go get him, and your body says, I can't get out of bed? Who's had days like this, right? Or days, have you ever had days when you wake up in the morning and go, I don't want to talk to people today? If you're in business or life and you don't talk to people, you got a problem. Or if you do and you fake it, like, oh, I'm doing great. How are you? Yeah, good. We all got giant meters today, don't we? I mean, nothing's real anymore. Reality TV is not even real. That's how starving we are for real. But people can feel when it's real or not. So what we really want to do is use that energy. Now, the question is, I've had days I'm exhausted. I wake up, especially the way I've lived most of my life, 275 days on the road, a lot of years, 30, 40 different countries. I'd wake up. I don't know what time zone I am, what country I'm in, what city is this? Oh, my back is hurting. My neck's hurting. I'm tired. I didn't get enough sleep. But I still give up and give 1,000,000% every single time because I know how to put myself in that state. So if you don't have the energy, let's ask you this. Where does energy come from? My mind, my emotions. That's right. Oh, food. Hang on a second. Okay. Let's address this one for a second. Food. Really? Food is a source of energy, but it's the source of energy, not at all. And I'll prove it to you. How many of you can remember your last Thanksgiving, if you're here in the U.S. or anywhere else in the world, big season when you brought family over and had a big feast, one of those at least once a year? And when you have that big feast, like in our country, it'd be Thanksgiving or Christmas, the question is, when you have that meal, you think it's Thanksgiving, it's the holiday, so I'm going to treat my body really special, have lots of broccoli and vegetables, right? No, what do you eat? Everything in sight, right? And how much do you eat? Everything you can. You're so stuffed at the end, you sit back and you're like going to try to push yourself away from the table and you go, oh, I'll never eat again. And someone goes, pumpkin pie? You go, okay, right? How do you feel after that big meal? Do you really want to go play football, go for a run? No, you want to lie on the couch and watch the boob tube, maybe take a little nap. See, have you ever seen people after lunch? Usually energy drops massively. So it's not food. Energy is a habit. So before we do anything else, if we do it in low energy, it's not going to have an impact. In fact, we did a study with Stanford. They did a study on us. They took one of my seminars. Two of their professors, went through one of my 6-day programs. It's an immersion program. And they were both clinically depressed. And they came back with no symptoms of depression, got rid of their drugs. And they said, this is unbelievable. We'd love to do a study. Do you have any data? I said, well, I got millions of graduates. They go, no scientific data. I said, well, happy to have you do a study. They said, what do you want to study? They said, it was the middle of COVID. They said, there's so much depression. There's so many overdoses. I mean, the kind of impact you're having here seems profound. We'd love to do a study. I said, well, what would you compare it to? Like, what's the current studies when people get treated for depression with drugs and talk treatments? And they said, well, it's crazy. When you look at the meta studies, which is a study of many different studies, you'll see on average, 60% of the people make no improvement whatsoever, and they have all these drugs that have side effects. 40% improve, and on average, they improve 50%. They're half as depressed as they were. Very few people get cured. Some keep taking these antidepressants the rest of their life, and one of the side effects is suicidal thoughts. It says it right on the box, right? It's just crazy. 2 years ago, 2022, on the cover of Newsweek, they showed through these new studies that these SSRIs don't work at all, but we still sell them. It's completely insane. They numb you. They don't deal with the actual challenge. And so I said to them, well, you could almost get that result, 40% improvement with a placebo. They said, maybe. And I said, what's the best study you've ever done? And they said, the best study was done 5 years ago at Johns Hopkins, and they gave people 30 days of psilocybin. This is magic mushrooms, and therapy for 30 days, cognitive therapy. And at the end of that, I said, you should have had it changed by that time, 30 days of drugging them out. And they said, yes, it was the most result they'd ever seen. At the end of 6 weeks, 54% of the people had no symptoms whatsoever of depression. They said it's the greatest result we've ever seen in the history of psychiatry. And I said, well, that's wonderful, except you can't do these drugs in most places, right? They said, that's true. I said, well, let's do the study. You set it up, compare it just like you did the Johns Hopkins. The results, to cut to the chase for you, were so dramatic, they were afraid they'd get canceled. So they sent out the data to 3 different private groups that evaluated it, and they all came up with the same result. After attending the program, just to give you an idea, these people changed their patterns of thinking, feeling, and being. They found that not one person, 100% of the people had no symptoms whatsoever of depression. How's that for a nice result, ladies and gentlemen? And 17% of the people who had suicidal ideation, constantly thinking of committing suicide or attempting it, not one had done it. 11 months later, they followed up. Nobody with depression, even better, 70% reduction in negative emotions. So I want you to know the reason I usually do things in immersion 12 hours a day, 4 days in a row. Here we only have a couple hours, 2.5 hours or so. In the immersion, we change your biochemistry. And one of the ways we do is we use music and movement, and we do things emotionally so that you have a shift. On the other hand, if I asked you where you were on 8/11 of the same year, you don't know because there's no biochemical change. The study actually showed they followed me for 3 years in seminars, and they learned a lot of things. They put this device on me, a $60,000 device, and it measures heart rate variability. They come and take my blood, find out my saliva, figure out my hormonal changes. And they've done this with guys like the Tom Brady's of the world, great athletes, great teams that come from behind, like the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's won several times. And they've discovered there's a biochemical shift that makes people have this incredible lasting result. Testosterone surges. Now, testosterone gives you drive and focus. When you have testosterone come through you, you remember everything. It walks into you, and you've got a driven focus. But usually with testosterone also comes stress. The cortisol is the stress hormone. If you see Tom Brady and he was down by 10 points in the fourth quarter of a Super Bowl, and somehow he comes back to win. How? His testosterone surges, but their cortisol drops off the cliff, so there's no stress. And so it doesn't guarantee they're going to win it, but it maximizes their possibilities. And the state change makes everything else possible. Otherwise, it's all just intellectual stuff.